the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
What a piece of junk.
She'll make .5 past light speed. She may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts, kid. I've made a lot of special modifications myself. But we're a little rushed, so if you'll just get on board, we'll get out of here.
Well, welcome back. It's the start of a new project. Here we are, second full week in April of 2019. Good Lord. And I've got limited amount of time between now and getting ready for the annual Fest de Wonder. And so looking through the stash, combing through the stash, and I'm trying to find something that I want to build that I can knock out in the next less than a month, get it done. And so, you know, I'm moving this big box out of the way, and I'm looking at all the little things that I've got going on, got stuck back in the stash. And I'm thinking, you know, I just did that pod, and it was elaborate, and it was all these different things. Let's do something a little simpler. And I, you know, had to move this big box out of the way to see the small things. Well, I looked at the big box, and I went, well, why don't I just do this one? And you may recognize it if I do this. But let me show you the big box. This is the big box. It is the PG, the Perfect Grade Millennium Falcon. I've had this puppy for a while. And I got it, you may or may not remember the story because, you know, I don't expect everybody to comb through my old videos and treat them like sacred text. But the old story is I was not going to get this Perfect Grade Falcon. I have enough Falcons. I've built a Falcon. Why would I want a Perfect Grade Falcon? I've built the bloody thing. And especially 1/72nd scale. I've done the Fine Molds Falcon. And so, you know, I was thinking, okay, it's great. It's a nice kit. I'm glad people like it. I wasn't going to get one. And then the local shop owner got one. And I made the mistake of opening the box. He brought it out. I sniffed the plastic. He showed it to me, and I went, okay, dagnabbit, I've got to get this thing. And I got it strictly for the purposes of making masks for the canopy and the window wells, which frankly I still haven't done. But I've had this thing forever. And I figured, okay, now it's time. Now it's time. I'm going to go ahead and do this Falcon. I can hopefully knock it out in a month or so. It is a Bandai kit, which means it's going to go together like a dream. Bandai kits are always well engineered. Minimal lighting because this is the New Hope version of the Falcon, which didn't have a lot of lighting. It had cockpits and had engines. It didn't have all the lights that they added to it for the special edition, which I'm not counting on, or the Empire Strikes Back when they started putting all the landing lights and all of the headlights and all that kind of stuff on it. So cockpit and engine lights, that's all there is to it. And Bandai actually provides their own lighting in this kit, which I have to say, not wildly impressed about. So I will probably swap out the engine lights rather than using the Bandai. I'll probably use the Bandai lights for the cockpit, and I might take those engine lights and put them somewhere else, like at the top of the ramp, things like that, rather than using for the engines. And then I will use the strip lighting, because strip lighting and the Falcon go together like bread and butter, peanut butter and jelly. I mean, it's just made. That long engine is made for a strip light. So, pulling out the box and reacquainting myself with the voluminous volume 1 of the manual, which is a beauty in itself, and it's 60 pages long. So that'll tell you something about how detailed this kit is. I mean, there's a separate box in here that is nothing but trees of the piping and things like that, the delicate details. So it's, you know, most Bandai kits I get, I can slap them together in a day. This ain't going together in a day, but it'll probably go together in 3 weeks, and it'll give me a chance to use the weathering paints that I like using so much. And I'm going to try the Vallejo primer on it, stuff like that. So it's a good test bed. Now, I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do with the decals for the inside of the cockpit. I guess I got to try them out, see if they're going to work, and if they don't, then you know, some sort of rudimentary painting. But the gunwales and the cockpit are very highly detailed parts, but they have decals to go on them, so we'll see. And then the plating decals, I don't know if I'm going to use them either. I might use them as guides and then paint and go back in and chip the paint. I haven't gotten that far. I haven't really decided about all that yet. So it's Falcon. It's well-worn territory. I've been here a few times already. So hopefully this will teach me something new. So let's get started. And this is the box o' parts. I mean, I think the thing to do is kind of lay them out and try to get organized. But here is like the insert for the engine, and it's meant to have, I guess, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bulbs behind it that will spread out into those cone shapes and light up the engines. I don't trust it. I don't want to use it, so I'm not gonna. Here are the bulbs, the 3 mils, it looks like, that are gonna go in the various places. So I think the best thing to do is to separate this thing out into sub-assemblies and just dive in. Okay, let's start diving in now. I actually read the instructions. Yes, I went through it several times. And the nice people at Bandai would like you to start. Well, first of all, I want you to check out the lighting rig, make sure all the lights work. But when they first start with the construction, what they want you to start with is the cockpit. Painting up the characters and the chairs and building the cockpit. And that's not really where I want to start. Decaling right off the bat is not my favorite thing to do. I want to do some building. And I went to look at these decals. These are the decals for the cockpit. Do those decals remind you of anything? Let me get them focused. First, let me get them. Do those decals remind you of anything? Wait for it. Yes, it's a 2001 pod. It's an EVA pod. It's a bunch of white buttons with white pinstripes around everything. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that today. I just spent, weeks working with the EVA pod, so I don't want to do that. What I'm going to do today is I am going to take all of the inserts, for lack of a better term. And by inserts, I mean things like this. The little pockets of Greeblies. There's inserts. There are 4 of them up here. There are some on the bottom around the landing gear. There are the ones that are inserts on the mandibles. And of the 1,000,006 parts this kit is made of, I'd say a good half of those go in the inserts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out everything that is an insert and build those up and put the details into them first. And then I'm going to do subsection by subsection and then put it all together. Now this is a Bandai kit, which means 2 things. A, it is expertly crafted as far as the molding on it and the detail built into the moldings. I mean, look at that detail. That's astounding. The crispness, the cleanness of the detail is amazing. And secondly, it's basically built to snap together. That's just the way Bandai kits go. They very rarely need any gluing. I am going to glue, however, because I want to avoid the dreaded Bandai squeak, which is if you put pressure on 2 parts and there's any bit of spring in them, they will squeak as you squeeze them together. So I will squeeze them together, glue them, and then they'll be more solid that way. So what I want to do, well, again, getting back to that first step, was because all of these parts are meant to snap in, they've got nice big connector places. It's like you don't have to worry that there's not enough meat on the end of a part to snap into the hole where it's supposed to go. They're just very, very well engineered, very well designed. So what I'm going to do is start rounding up the parts that I need for the various insert boxes, for lack of a better term. Okay, I've got the first bank of mandible inserts done. I promise I'm not going to be doing this for every single piece, the 2 pieces I put together, but I just want you to marvel at the, come on, get it into focus. I want you to marvel at the level of detail. Look at those little eye hooks there. Yes, that is the front of a very small lunar module. But look at, this is the piece by my fingernail that I want you to see. Through holes in there. That's how crisp and clean the detail is on this. Amazing. Okay, that is the one that goes in the starboard side mandible. So we get this finished and we put it aside. I think I want to paint these out apart and separate before I attach them to the inside of the mandible. So we're going to be putting all of our inserts, finishing them, and then putting them aside so that I can do some weathering and rusting and all that kind of stuff inside of those before we put them in the mandibles and in the back of the hull. And then we'll maybe mask them off so that we don't get too much grime in there, too much dirt in there. Okay, I want to show you something sneaky. I'm going ahead and doing the sidewalls on the mandibles, even though I am not putting the top on, just because that's the next bit of the instructions. And looky here. Now, I know this is the New Hope version, but you got to believe that they're planning to do something with the Empire Strikes Back version, because that little divot there looks suspiciously like a location for a future LED for a headlight. Look at that. It's got wire chases going down the side here. It's got a little divot there for the place to put the bulb. Now, the only thing it's missing is the piece that goes over the front of it does not have a cutout. But you can betcha that they would make a separate piece for that. If you wanted to go ahead and put headlights in it now, even though it wasn't used, you got everything you need to do it right there. Okay, I can't really go any further at this point. They want you to start putting all the fine piping and everything on, and I don't want to do that yet until I have got this thing stuck in and this joined up. So until that happens, I don't want to put a lot more of the detailing on. So what I'm going to do is get the other mandible to this stage. I'm going to go ahead and work up the detail box and for the other side and get that as far along as this one is. I think it's going to be easier to paint that way. Welcome back. It is Wednesday, and I'm working on this pile of Falcons some more today. And got a lot done yesterday. Got a lot of these little inserty things done, like the areas that go up into the undercarriage and along the sides of the mandibles and things like that. And I found myself getting to a point where what I really want to do is go ahead and spray a base color, or a background color, for lack of a better term, before I do... Sorry, I should have done this before I turned the camera on. Before I put the outer layer of piping on. Because it's going to be difficult at best to get in behind the piping without really just slathering on a big heavy coat of paint, and I'm not interested in doing that. So in order to make the utmost layer, the outermost layer of piping stand out, I think what I need to do is to go ahead and just give a light spritzing of a dark gray in there that I can work the kinks out of later. So I'm trying to think of, if I went ahead and did these this morning, I'm trying to think if there's any other sub-assemblies that I can be taking care of. I think I want to do like the guns and maybe some of the stuff that's on this back deck. I got to figure out whether that's worth doing whether I should spray that and then put the top parts on it. I think I want to do that because there's only like one major layer of greebling that gets done on top of that. So I'm just going through the pile of parts and see where I'm at. Even though I think I'm still pretty much committed to putting strip lights in here. I wanted to see how this went together, and I'm going to test out the lighting just to see how, anemic it actually is before I badmouth it anymore. Things like that. So I still have all these to go yet. Okay, here's a test lighting of the engines, and while it's not as anemic as I was thinking it was going to be, it's, for the price of this model, it's still pretty puny. That's gonna have to be supplemented with something a little bit beefier than the supplied lighting. It's good, but maybe I'm just used to seeing a glow back there, just a, almost wiping out the camera glow. But it's a bit anemic. It's actually shining down. The light leak areas are shining down better than the actual area of the engine where it's lit. Let me see. I like this. This is nice, but by the time it gets out to the end here, it's pretty wimpy. Maybe if we sand the edge of this outside here, it'll rough that up a little bit more. Maybe transfer the light a little bit better. But yeah, it's I would say an A for effort, but let's see if I can get this turned. An A for effort, but really, by the time you get something this nice put together, you want to have your socks knocked off. I know subtle sometimes is best, but I don't like subtle lighting. Not in this case. And granted, yes, it's supposed to be, sitting. It's going to be sitting with its landing gear down or whatever, so it wouldn't even be lit. But if you have the means to do a light strip in there, why wouldn't you? So we'll think of that way. And if I end up changing my mind, well, I'll save all of the parts so that I don't do anything irrevocable. Okay, and I'm trying to be very careful that I have checked my facts before I make this proclamation. But this is the first spot where the Bandai kit has lied to me. There are no decals. There are no decals for the inside of the turret. It says start applying decals first. For decal locations, refer to water decal instructions. There are no decals for the inside of the gun turrets. These little turret wells. And I look for the instructions, and as nicely and as full colored as they are, they certainly cover the areas of the cockpit, but they make no mention of the gun turrets because there are no decals for the gun turrets. Lies, all lies, I tell you. So there. If you want to paint those, if you want any color at all, you're gonna have to paint them, which I think kind of sucks, as much as they have done for the rest of this kit, that they got caught flat-footed there on the gun turret decals. And if you look at the parts where they list all of the trees and everything, they don't mention any sort of supplemental sheet like I am missing anything. No, those are all of the decals. So take that with your shaker of salt. Well, believe it or not, I'm actually starting to finish up different trees, different sprues. I have got a lot done. I've got a lot of this condensed into that. It's not hard work, it's fun work, but it is a marathon. It is, running a marathon is not difficult. It's an endurance test. Running is simple enough, but running 12 miles or 50 miles, putting two pieces together is not difficult, but doing, 100 of them or 200 of them, it becomes something quite different. And like I said, this is becoming an endurance test. It's putting one fiddly bit into another fiddly bit and combining it into a fourth fiddly bit. So things like the guns, you know, which in the old days was like, what, 2 pieces, 3 pieces, it was 2 halves, and then the horseshoe in the old MPC days, or the old, I guess that's MPC, the original Falcon. It was like 2 halves for the guns, and then the the horseshoe shape here. This was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces. 8 pieces. This is 8 pieces right here. And then there's, you know, times 2 guns. So I'm going to take a break because, you know, your hand starts to cramp up and your eyesight starts to go. I've got the dish done. I've got lots of little sub-assemblies done. And what I want to do is kind of clean the table, clean the slate, and look at what else I want to do before I start putting on the primer paint. There is a lot of pieces like these little detail things that go on after 2 big assemblies happen, like putting the mandibles on. Then there are parts that straddle both of those. Well, I can't do those until I put those sub-assemblies together. So I'm doing what I can. Like, I can't put this together with the rest of the bottom until I have sunk these two guys in. So I want to get this painted before I put it into there, before I can do the rest of it. So I'm doing the stuff that does not require things be done in a particular order, and I'm eliminating all those until I get to the things that can only be done in a certain order. If that makes any sense to you, and if it doesn't, write me and I will try to explain it to you. But look at all of these. This is very, very fine detail. It's an amazing amount of detail, and frankly a bit daunting. So I'm gonna stretch my eyes and take a break. Good morning and welcome back to the Falcon Factory. It's Thursday. Got a lot of work done yesterday, and a lot of it is like I said, the inserts, the wells that go back up behind other objects. And I did a lot of what you're seeing here is a big mess, but a lot of it is pre-shading. It's pre-weathering. It's doing the bits that you will never be able to get to once they are properly installed, like this bay, which by the time you hide it up under where it's supposed to go and cover it with the outer shell, you would never be able to get into it with a paintbrush, things like that. So that's what that's what I was working on yesterday, and particularly these boxes that go inside the mandibles that you would never be able to get a paintbrush into. Well, now that I've got those closed up, I was just experimenting on some technique here. Now that I've got those closed up, I think what I'm going to do first is work on the details that go on the tops of these. There's a lot of piping that goes on. Now there's still some pieces I can't put on because they bridge this piece and the next. What I want to do is look at how much I can do to finish the mandibles themselves. And then start putting some of the bigger chunks together, I guess. I can put these guys in place now, and once I do that, I will be able to put the 2 major sections of the bottom hull together. And we'll just carry it through that way and see how much further we get today. Like I said, got a lot of work done yesterday. I'm playing with techniques that once I get them figured out, it's going to help the rest of it go like a breeze. Now, yesterday I also put the landing gear together. We had one fatality yesterday. We lost the ramp. We lost the ability to have the ramp open because I squeezed them together like a goon and snapped all of the little pistons that were too delicate to stand up to that abuse. So we're not going to have the open ramp unless I decide to somehow re-scratch build all of these. I'll go ahead and show you my hidden shame. These guys, they snapped off because I squeezed it too far like this to put it together, and they went all akimbo. I don't like those anyway. I think they're kind of wimpy. I remember them being a whole lot beefier than that. So we'll have to see. I don't know whether, looking at it now today, looking at the damage and seeing whether it's worth trying to recreate it or not, I don't know. But there you go. Hard to focus on them because they want to focus on the stuff behind it. But there you can see what happened. So if I don't rebuild those, then that'll be the end of that. But everything else seemed to have gone well yesterday. So let's continue it on today. Alrighty, you can see I am working on adding the detail to the mandible, and the fact that I had painted this yesterday lets you see the detail that I am adding today and gives you an idea of the staggeringly detailed parts that are going on there. I'm starting to put the piping on the top, and I've got a whole ton more to go on the bottom here, but just amazing amounts of very, very crisply detailed casting styrene bits that go on here. Let's see if I can get a close-up of this one in particular. It's not letting me hold the phone. There you go. That's got that one with, it looks like a 5-point star. Well, let me see, my hands are shaking, so let me put it down here. That little bit there actually has spikes sticking up from it. It's astounding. But let's continue on this. This is going slow but steady. Okay, I've finished the piping on the bottom of this mandible, and I gotta tell you, the instructions on the Bandai kit, as beautiful as they are, it's kind of overkill. I mean, I'm glad they're doing it this way, but I really get more out of, they show a completed part, or they show the completed part in this section, and they show where you were, and it's kind of faded out, and then they show you in black outline what new parts you're putting down. And I find that a whole lot more instructive and helpful than showing the individual, okay, this goes into this hole, this goes into that hole, that goes... I mean, this is the exploded view where they show you exactly what part goes where. I gotta tell you, I get more out of just using this and seeing, okay, well, that's part 18. It goes right in there between those three holes. But I'm glad to give it both ways, but you know, you probably could have cut down the size of the book just by giving those views. But that's not really much of a complaint, I know. I'm just saying that I'm glad that they do that, because that's the way I prefer to get my instruction. Now, it's important that when you go down here, you check, because it'll tell you if something has to go on first or not. Like, you know, if something goes under another part, you want to put it on first. And when that happens, they put a big 1 in next to it. They give you the order which it's supposed to go on, but I don't use that 9 times out of 10. So now let's go on to doing the next one. Here is one completed mandible with all the detail parts added and all of the piping added. That's some sweet detail there, my friends. Yup. And it does help. It does help. I'll tell you 2 things if you're going to build this kit. Get yourself a brand new pair of nippers. Brand new. If you have any little dings or nicks in them from cutting wire or something that you shouldn't have been cutting with your plastic nippers, get yourself a nice clean pair of these, because you've got some fine areas to get, again, I'm trying to show you, it's some fine areas to get in and around with your nippers. So get a good sharp clean pair of nippers, and go ahead and get some instant set glue, whether it's 10X or whether it's MEK. I wouldn't use any of the CAs or any of the gloppy stuff, but there are parts, even though this is a Bandai kit and it's kind of designed to be snapped together, you're going to want to glue these tiny bits in. I'll go ahead and tell you that. So let's jump on to the second mandible now. Okay, I've gotten the second mandible done, and look at all the pretty detail going on there, as well as probably the most complicated piece of piping. That's all one piece going into all those places. So these mandibles are done, and it's a good time to stretch my legs, squint my eyes, go look at the tweeting birds, and then come back in a few minutes. Okay, I did some big work here. I'm putting those two inserts in, and now we're ready to join the two big chunks of the bottom half of the hull together. And this, I gotta tell you, is a massive piece of plastic. Now, I have added these guys in here, but all of this is one injected molded piece of plastic, and that is like all kinds of substantial. That is one big honking piece of plastic. And now it's time to add this to the front of it to give me the complete bottom. Okay, I've got the front half added to the back half, and it's starting to look like the old hamburger we all know and love. There are some more detail pieces I need to put in around here on these edges before I'm ready to add the mandibles, and that'll be a big chunk today. And I need to decide about lighting this ramp, because we're getting to the point where I need to start gluing pieces in, and so I need to make a need to make up my mind about that. And let's see what else. Oh, the lighting for the landing gear that goes under here has to be wired in before this piece can go in. So let's do the final bits of detail work around the side, and then maybe get the mandibles in. Alrighty, now we're ready to put the mandibles on. I've got all some of the little extra bits, the detailies, the fiddlies around the outside here that needed to be added, and we are ready to do this big old chunk of construction. And you got to get the rolling glue out. Now, I've mentioned this before. The reason I'm gluing this thing together was to avoid the Bandai squeak when you grab something and the plastic squeaks, because it's giving a little bit. But another thing that I found, which is a nice side effect, is that when you glue these things, you also lubricate them a bit, and it makes it easier to slide down into place than if you're just trying to force it down, dry plastic over dry plastic. So let's get those last mandibles in, and we'll finally get a sense of the overall length of this guy. The mandibles in, and they've dried a bit. I want to do this last bit of work here before I put this aside and work on the top. Now, I'm not even getting into the back. I'm not even going to get into that today. There's that, and then there's all the stuff that goes on that. That's another day's work. I just want to do this last bit here. Good morning, welcome back. It is Friday, and you know what that means. It is the last work day of the week, and it's raining outside. So, nothing better to do but to work on the Falcon, and I am making this my entire menu for today. This is my plate, this is my breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This is what I want to be working on today, and to show you how excellent and finely detailed the photo etch. I've already done that. I cheated. I went ahead and put the photo etch in out of this plate this morning, but to show you how beautiful that is, I'm going to turn the lights on here and show you how fine the detail is on these. It almost seems a shame to put anything. There you go. That's the fine detail on that of the photo etch, which is not brass colored. It is, looks like stainless steel color, which is beautiful. And a little bit of black paint is all I'm going to do. Just a little bit of scorching on that. I don't want to cover it up so much, but it seems a shame to put this black, well, let me turn this off now, to put this black insert in behind it. So I think what I'm going to do is, well, I'm going to leave it out for the grand portion of the time, and if I decide at the last I want to put it in, I may paint these silver or gunmetal or some such brighter color so that you could see the detail of them through these. But look at that. That's just beauty. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be putting all the little fiddly bits on here today, and then we'll see how the rest of the day goes. That'll take up a lot of the pieces, and I'm sure I can go and start working on maybe the underside, because there's some detail that needs to go on there. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's just start by, well, yesterday I did start. I went ahead and did this baffle plate piece here that goes on the end of it. It's really a separate, actually no, that is not a separate, that is a thing. It is a separate piece, I'm sorry. Yeah, this piece here attaches. Let me double check that. No, I'm not. I'm wrong. I'm wrong. This looks like it was. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it was all one piece. It was all one piece. So that's where we at. I did put these guys on yesterday though. So let's get to work on this and see how well it goes. Okay, it's taken a good bit, but I have got all of this done. I guess get down to here. All of that is done, and I've gone through a couple of pages of instructions, and now they're getting ready to work on this quadrant here. So I guess this might be a good time to stop and take a break and refocus and get up and stretch, because this is meticulous work. Okay, I've been working on this most of the morning, and we are finally ready to finish. We're getting ready to go down the center. We've got all of this done, all of this done, and now just this last bit down the center, and that will finish off the top of this engine deck. Oh, this didn't take near as long as I was dreading. It's about 12:30 and time for lunch, and I'm done. Yes, it's in many cases it's parts upon parts upon parts, but ready to set that aside and then come back and I think maybe we'll tackle the underside now, the undercarriage as it were. But this is mighty pretty. Lots of little fiddly bits. And it's made to be removable because you have to get under this to get to the switches and change batteries and stuff like that. So this is meant to be a removable hood, so to speak. Still debating whether or not I want to put this black piece underneath those engines. I gotta do something. You can't, if you put black behind that, you're just gonna lose all that detail. You're never gonna see it. So I'll have to think about that while I'm having my lunch. Okay, we're coming up on the end of Friday afternoon, and the last thing I want to do before putting the Falcon to bed for the week is to do a lot of this pre-shading of the panel lines. And this is common amongst a lot of Falcon builders. What you do is you slather in a bunch of darker colors here. That way when you put your lighter tones over top of it, it gives you natural shadow lines in the plating gaps. And what's different about this Falcon from others that I built is that this time I am going for the buttery yellowish white Falcon rather than the stark gray Falcon, which you see a lot of the model work, particularly in the later films. You see the Falcon looks a lot grayer, whereas in the first film, the original, the true, no bloody episode 4 on it, the Falcon, and particularly the full-scale one, had a more yellowish white. It was on the warm side of gray rather than the cool side of gray, and that's what I'm going to be shooting for on this kit, to do more of that yellowish white, beigeish white version than the more typical gray ones that you see. So what I'm doing now is I'm leaving warm. All my shadows are going in with warm colors, so I want to do a warm gray. This is burnt iron, or the dark iron color that has got some green in with it. I'm using that for the pre-shading, and got most of the bottom done now. I just need to go out and get the top part. Okay, we're going to bless this mess and call it done for the week. This is ugly. I don't mind telling you it's ugly. Of course it's ugly. It's pre-shading. And once I get a top coat on it, a lot of that's going to disappear. But you got to make it ugly before you can make it beautiful. Here's something I don't like. I painted the deck silver underneath there just to see how it would look. And you can see the little slits in there that were made for, well, there's a part, there are plastic versions of the photo etch that if you want to use those instead, you may. And that's how they aligned them, by hitting in these slots. Well, if you're not going to use them, then those slots are visible. I don't believe they gave you any parts to cover those over. So going to have to do something to cover the tops of those turbine fans, I guess. I think putting a coat of black on those first to see really how much of that's going to show through might be called for, but then I might have to just you know, put a darker coat of color over that, or else, you know, do a little bit of scratch building and just put something over those slots. I don't like that. That was not very forward thinking for the fine people at Bandai, who usually do a much better job at things like that. But that's where we're going to end it for the week. And this is where we're going to end for week 1 on the hunk of junk, the PG Falcon. Sometimes it was an R-rated Falcon because of the swearing I was doing at it when I was fiddling with tiny bits. But that's a heck of a lot of work. Now, Bandai kits, to me, traditionally, you know, they go together pretty quickly. And this has been 4 days of concentrated effort. Now, it's not been 4 days, I mean, 4 8-hour days. I don't work 8-hour days. But just getting this done, this took all of this morning to do. And these things are taking their sweet time. There are tiny, tiny, tiny parts on it. And hundreds of the tiny parts. But it's going well. It's going about as quickly as I thought. If we can get all of the building finished, we'll start next week with actual decaling and painting of the cockpit and the gunwales, because I'm to the point now where I can't do any more work on the top and bottom until I get the gunwales installed. So I've got to at some point hunker down and start doing those. And then we'll have a few days of painting and a few days of decaling, and that'll do it. I don't know if we'll finish next week or not. I wanted a project that I could, you know, kind of coast through the rest of April with, and this might be it. I still need to think about what kind of lighting I'm going to put in the back engine. The kit parts are the kit lighting is a wee bit anemic. I would really like to put some strip lighting, and I got especially spoiled on that long intensive strip lighting that I got from Elliot, but I've run out of that. I have no more, so I'm going to have to see if I can order some more of that, and how long it's going to take to get in, and am I going to wait for all of that. The nice thing about Bandai kits is if you don't glue all the parts together, you can still disassemble to a certain extent if I need to get into a part. As long as I don't glue the parts around it, I can still get into it. But that's next week's work, so until then, be good to each other, be good to a stranger, be good to your pets, call your mom if she's still around, and we'll talk to you next week.
I got a bad feeling about this.